Hi guys. Welcome back. I have to say I'm so incredibly nervous for this. And I don't know why I'm nervous. This is just an open conversation with somebody who I adore and I look up to so much in the industry. And I never get nervous to have conversations like this, but I've been dealing with just a lot of the imposter syndrome. Like why this woman has spoken on so many different podcasts, and so I'm like, what do I do to make this a different experience for her and something that is really enjoyable? So I did prep some notes for this, and as I get a little bit more comfortable and into the flow of how I'm going to be conducting these actual interviews and the things that I'm going to want to talk about, I hope that you guys can just be patient as I figure this all out. But today's a very special day. 2 reasons in particular. The first reason is this is my very first interview podcast episode for the Creative Revival. When I was, initially dreaming about this show and this space, this is exactly what I wanted to be doing. I am a little nervous just because there's so many things that go into this. The second reason I'm so excited and that this day is extra special is because this interview is with somebody who I literally could have only dreamt about. So up until today, it's been a dream, and I'm so grateful that she gave me the opportunity to make it a reality. I think it's what she's really known best for, is bringing people's dreams to life and connecting with her community that she's worked so hard to build. For the next couple minutes, I'm just going to pretend that the episode title doesn't give it all away. I wanted to give my guest the proper introduction that I think she is so deserving of and doesn't often give herself enough credit for in my research of watching, previous podcasts that she's done. So here we go. So to lay it all out for you as simply as I can, as someone who's in the creative business industry, as a mother, an entrepreneur, I have looked up to this woman in more ways than one. The energy, experience, and knowledge that she has mastered over the last 13 years of building her business, I think is truly what sets her apart in this industry and what makes her just stand out and continue to inspire the masses. Not only do I find myself so connected to this person through just being a female in the industry and through our wild, imaginative, creative ADHD brains. She, like myself, is a mom to 2 very busy boys and has built a life with her husband, who she met on Tinder. And I'm so excited to actually explore a little bit more of that, because this person hasn't ever really shared anything about her husband that I've found anyway. They literally have built this super unconventional, I guess when you look at stereotypicals, like standards, society, they've built this amazing life together. Specializing in elopements in the Pacific Northwest, this woman does it all. She creates templates and guides and resources and literal gear for photographers, all while running a massively successful online business empire through her program Basecamp. These may be all things that this woman is best known for, but here on the Creative Revival, I really want to dive a little bit deeper on the show and explore a little bit more of the person behind the passion. So I am so fucking honored to be sharing this space and this time with Dawn Jarvis. Welcome to the Creative Revival podcast. I'm your host, Kate Kozar, a passionate photographer, devoted wife, and mother to 2 very energetic boys. 7 years ago, I blindly transitioned from a corporate job to pursue my photography dream, specializing in capturing love stories in the wedding industry, and I've never looked back. Join me on a journey as we explore the depths of mental health, relationships, parenthood, and business, while unraveling the intricacies of entrepreneurship in the creative industry. Through candid conversations and genuine connections, we'll explore the why and the how behind people's lives and create a safe haven for introspection and growth. From small-town beginnings to global adventures, let's embark on this transformative exploration together. Welcome to a space where stories are heard and hearts are understood. There she is. Hello. Can you hear me?
How's it going?
Good. Are you at home right now?
I am. I'm in my office.
Okay, perfect. I'm at home too. It's just started thunderstorming, literally, like I was mentioning. Well, I we'll just get right into it. Listen to a couple of podcasts, well, all of them that you've done to like prep for this, and I'm like,
I noticed.
this
The question was
woman.
like, oh my God, how many do you listen to?
Oh, well, I have a background in journalism, so I'm just like,
God.
I like to just know a little bit more, obviously going into it, but you don't ever give yourself enough fucking credit in your intros. You're like, I'm Dawn and I'm an 11 photographer, and I'm like, yeah, but there's so much
I mean,
more.
I am.
I know, but there's so much more there. And so that's why I'm really happy to have you on this show. And that's kind of the whole thing that I wanted to start, is just open up the space to learn more about the creatives and like the person behind the passion. So I have my notes here because I, like you, have ADHD, and I'm like, I will go so off the wall, and I want to really touch on some of these things. So, Dawn, thank you so much for being here today. I have already shared with my audience who you are, a little bit about you, and everything that you typically share on the podcast that you join and that you get to speak on. I am so grateful that you are here today. I don't think you realize how much it means to me. And genuinely, just coming from a creative who has worked so much to build up my business, speaking to someone with you who, like, over 12 years in the industry and so much, you've built so much. It just means a lot to me. I know you're very busy. I know you're a mom and every other thing that I've touched on in the intro, which I do want to explore more into. But just to the listeners, I think, if you're just listening to this and you're just exploring Dawn for the first time, LOL, like get out of the rock that you're hiding under. But she does introduce herself and is a very basic like elevator pitch. This is me in so many interviews. So I'm going to leave little links for that. And I'm going to save you that little spiel. But I do want to, like I said, and I kind of prepped you for, dive into a couple questions and explore it a little bit deeper. Also, I just want to prep this with saying, yesterday, when I announced on my Instagram that you were going to be speaking on the podcast and being a guest in my community, people were shooketh. They were like, what? How did you do this? And I think this is just so... Well, that's the thing. And I want to, for my audience, show up for them and say, you guys, this is the special trick. This is the magic recipe. I dreamt up Dawn Jarvis has to be on my guest. This is like... When I started this podcast to dream it all up and plan it out, I had 3 speakers and you were one of them, like top 3. And so guys, this is the trick. I dreamt it all up, wrote down Dawn Jarvis Monday night, Tuesday morning, 6 a.m. because I'm fucking crazy and I'm alive at the crack of dawn. But I sent her a DM. You're probably going to hate this too because you're like, I get enough DMs. But you guys, no. I went for it. I sent her a DM. And within 45 minutes, she's like, yeah, that sounds great. I'm in. Let's go. And I think it's just something that, I mean, I'm from a small town and the creative industry is very restricted to like what we kind of see. And I've traveled a lot and I have a really large community outside of just this small town. And I know how important it is to support other people in the industry, but also, which I love about you, but also just to go for what you want. And I'm a big believer in like, doors don't just open, opportunities don't just come up, you need to knock them down and just go for it. And the worst thing that's going to happen is she won't respond, or she'll be like, hey, I'm busy doing a million other things, and then I'm not going to be wondering. So I guess want to say to everyone listening, if you are someone in the industry and you're just like, I want to do this and I want to build this, but this is what I need and I don't know how to get it, reach out to those people and ask questions and lean on them. And if they're not your people, they're not your people. And I think that's really important. I just wanted to say that. That's a big thing I stand by, but I really appreciate you for showing up and for, having this conversation with just the basic stuff and leave, I guess, our listeners with a little bit of that tech talk that they might be kind of hoping to get from you. And we'll just start very simply put. I know that you started off in photography shooting Canon. Is that right?
Yep.
And then you made the switch to Sony. And what kind of are you still shooting with Sony, first of all?
I am for one more wedding. It's because I also work for my friend has her own photography team, and she is primarily like a Sony team. So I kept all my gear just to shoot one more wedding for her this summer, and then I'm selling it all. So like literally like in a month and a half, I won't be Sony anymore.
And then, so are you going back to Canon?
Yes, I've like
okay.
Yeah.
You're a Canon lover. You love
Yeah,
it.
I'm back to
Yeah.
Canon.
That was what I was wondering. I started with Canon too. Like when I was just learning, I was like the T6i Rebel, I think is what I
Oh
used for
yeah.
literally the first 2 years. And then I learned like glass is what's really important and figuring out what you want to do and how you want to show up for your clients. And that's what I really focused on. But so you're shooting with Canon, you're going to be going back to Canon. What is the gear lineup that you're going to be primarily using? And what's your favorite? What's your
Yeah.
go-to?
I mean, well, yeah, so I started Canon. I was Canon for like 12 years and then I jumped into Sony during COVID, I think. I don't even remember, right? Pre-COVID and then kind of like hung around there, but mainly because at the time I was still on like the SLR setup and I wanted to go mirrorless for the weight of the body. And at the time, I had also worked at a camera shop prior to going full-time as a photographer, and so I knew a lot about like Sony, Nikon, Fuji, Olympus, Canon, all of that. I knew a lot about that world. And I knew that Sony was like had always been a top dog, but kind of also underrated in a lot of ways as well. But their mirrorless program setup was the best of the best. But then, and Canon's was like sucking so bad. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go to Canon mirrorless because that's stupid. So at the time, like, and this is years ago, right? So I was like, I'm not going to do that because it's just not a good move, like financially and like creatively for me. And so I sold my gear, went Sony, and then Canon actually got good at mirrorless finally, and then dropped a really amazing lens, which is the 28-70 2.0, which is like my dream lens. And that's what got me back. I was like, I have to have that lens. I'm tired of lugging 4, 5, 6 lenses at every session. And I'm an avid, like, I love switching out all my different like compositional focal lengths. And so I love being able to go from like a 24 to a 35 to a 50 to an 85 to a 24 to 70. Like I love that. And I love what it creates in my work. But I was really tired of doing that and hiking all of that, and making my clients wait for me to switch that out was like affecting at least myself, like mentally, like that I was missing shots or I was inconveniencing my client and stuff like that. So I was like, I'm just gonna try it out. So before the new year, I was like, I'm gonna just do it now so I can have it as a write off for taxes. So in December of 2023, like literally like 2 days before the new year, I dropped some money and got the R6 Mark II, Canon R6 Mark II with the 28 to 70.
Yes, I remember when I went back and it's like I mean, business is an investment, and once you realize that and can kind of set yourself up, it's great. You're in a good position, but I'm like, how does someone who's building a business like I know what I need this gear and I want to improve my business and improve my experience, but I don't have like how do you? So that was a big thing. It's a huge investment.
Yeah.
And so good for you. So you're going to be so when is your last wedding then that you're shooting Sony with?
Mid-July.
In July. And are you
Mhm.
doing just elopements or you're like the micro weddings and elopements is what you're currently booking still?
I mean, I still book maternity, couples, family, high school seniors. I still do it all. I just don't really post about it all.
For sure. Yeah, I know you've created such a strategic brand with the whole elopement part. I'm like, there's so much more facets to Dawn. So I love that you two came from I did not, but I came from a corporate background with a little bit of tech industry, but nothing to do with cameras. So I'm
Okay.
like all YouTube taught. And I think for you coming from, yeah, well, I'm self-taught. I'm a big get out there and learn as you go. But having the experience in the shop that you worked at was probably so helpful for you, like figuring out what camera and like what gear to get and all that. So
And like learning how to fix a camera on site was everything. Like people would come in all the time being like, oh, there's a glitch or there's this, or I need to clean this, or I can't open this. Like it's like jammed. Like I learned a lot, and I learned like what cameras need to function or how they can handle all sorts of things. So it was pretty fun to be able to understand like the background of all the cameras and how to fix them and how to I don't know. I just love it. I'm like it's so funny. I had a shoot last week for a maternity session and it started to rain during the shoot. My clients were so worried about me and my camera, and it was so sweet. And I was like, no, I promise, like my camera can handle it. I'm good. Like I'm not even worried. And they're like, but Dawn, your camera. I was like, y'all, for one, I would never charge you if it broke. Like that's not happening. 2, it's not gonna break. And 3, let's go have fun. Like let's just like embrace the rain and like have a blast. And they were like, okay. And I was like, I promise, don't even think about my camera one more time. They're like, okay, perfect. And it was so funny. And I was like, I know what my camera can handle, and like I fully can trust like what it can do with me today for you guys. And it was a blast.
yeah, I think finding the confidence in your gear is what absolutely changes not only your experience, but just, well, your experience, but your product too. Like you
Yeah.
obviously know, like for me, I made the switch from Canon to Sony. Do you know who Chewy Photos is?
Oh, I love
Chewy
Chewy. He's wonderful.
Yeah. Okay, so I started like falling in love with the idea of storytelling for couples through his work,
Cool.
like way back. I've been doing this for about 6, 7 years now, but like weddings, about 3 or 4 now. So before I was like, I'm not touching a wedding. These terrify me. But anyway, that's a different
Every wedding
story.
photographer says that first.
I know. And it's so interesting. I've been talking a little bit with other photographers. I'm like, and they all just say the exact same thing. And I'm like, so what was the switch for you? And I think everyone says something different, which is so interesting. But back to Chewy with the whole gear setup thing. I was shooting with Canon Rebel and I was obsessed with the GIFs, like the animations that he was
Yeah.
making. And I'm like, how the fuck does he do that? So I took his course, figured out the still frame and like how to just, I guess, conceptualize everything and then produce it. And then I guess part of that was figuring out my gear literally is holding me back from creating the work that I want to do.
Yeah.
So now I need to look at this as a business, not just an artist and a creative. And that was the first dabble into that. But it's so important to have gear that can set you up for the kind of art that you want to create and stories that you want to tell. Because I just wasn't feeling it. And when I got my Sony, I'm like, oh my God, I fell into it. And I fell into that confidence space where I'm like, I'm learning this and I'm going for it and I loved it. So
I love
that's
that.
big for me. I've obviously listened. I told you when we chatted a little bit prior to recording here, I've obviously listened to a ton of your podcasts. I've been doing a little bit of my research. This is a big deal for me, Dawn. And I do know that like your story, you've had a lot of support. And correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but I know that, you know, after you graduated, you were about 22 and you're starting your business and you had a lot of support within your family and your mom and the space that she kind of had. You were able to live rent free and
Yes.
I guess build your business. I've kind of hit you're 33, 34? How old are you? 33? You're like, how old am I?
I think I'm
I'm
33.
I'm bad with that too. I'm like,
I never know how old I am.
my birthday is one of the last days of the year. So whenever people ask me in like, say April of that year, like June of that year, I'm always just like, I tell them what age I'm turning because it's like, I'm never going to become that age until the last. Anyway, I never know how fucking old I am. I'm 30 and the last couple of years for me have been like a really deep dive into my family and healing through like a lot of the traumas that I've kind of been through, which I think is really interesting to see just how it plays into the art that I'm creating and the stories that I'm wanting to tell and how I can connect with my people. And I think just how you started your business was really telling into how successful you've become. Like you had a lot of support and that's not without saying you did a lot of work. You did have a lot of support. Like you had that support with your mom with the financial part of building your business.
Yeah.
And when you were doing this, for those listeners who maybe don't know this part, again, Dawn expands a lot on kind of her story with this in the show notes that I've listed below, but her sorority sisters literally would set up styled elopements and styled weddings for her as she's figuring out her style and her niche and just all of this and supported you so much. And I think that's, like you said, means so much and has really helped you kind of skyrocket into the successful woman that you are. Can you talk about maybe for somebody who doesn't have that support on the financial side or even within the community right now and they're wanting to they have this really big dream and they're doing it all by themselves, like what suggestions or what advice would you give them to just going for it by themselves and where can they find that community right now?
Oh, that's so hard because like this community is so different than when it was when I got started. And like in good ways and in bad ways, like it's grown so much. There's like so many more people to connect with now. But I feel like now people are so scared of like the scarcity and like the competition that like a lot of people are very gatekeepy now and very I don't know. It's a very interesting community and like it's growing to be the very interesting community. So it's like kind of hard where I'm like, I want you guys to go and like create new friendships and like find people who truly support you in your business and like you get a sick ass inquiry and instead of them being like cool, like they're like, fuck yeah, let's go celebrate. Like finding the people in your life that are like that. And like for me, I do have a really small but supportive photography community. As big as my community is, it supports me. There is not a lot of people that I can also like actually come back to and like have that connection with, like tell them like big exciting things or whatever. Like it's one thing to like talk to my social media, it's another to have like the people who I like choose back, if that makes sense. Like my like little community that I actually like talk to every day kind of a thing. And I will say that the people that I do that with are just some of my best friends. Like even though they might not be in this like photography world, like I still like lean into my like chosen family, which is like my group of like best girlfriends and like, you know, just like all of us together. And like I tell them so much about my business and like where I'm at and like the support that I need. And of course I tell that to like my photography community as well. But I think just finding in general a community that you feel like you can be 100% yourself and be supported and talk to people about, like even if they don't understand what you're doing, like why you're on social media or why you're blogging or whatever, like if they're truly your people, they'll still listen and support you, and like that's what matters. But like at the end of the day too, like yes, it sucks if you are kind of at this right now like doing it alone, but keep going. Don't let that stop you. Like just keep on trying. You'll find your people as you go. Like just as you open up that space for that, like you have to be open to that as well. Like whether you decide to do that through workout classes or clients that you get close with or photographers that you actually connect with online, like I don't want to be like that photographer or like educator who's like, oh, join my Basecamp education and make friends through there. Like I don't want to, like, of course you can do that and you hopefully will make friends in there, but like I never want to be like, oh, that's how you're going to find a community, is by joining someone else's like educational group to create a community. Like I think just like opening yourself up to that, trying to meet new people, second shooting for people, or going to styled shootouts, or if you want to be in the photography community, it's just hard. I feel like you just need to open yourself up to that and see if it's something that is connecting both ways, I guess, if you want that support system. That's such a hard one though. Like
I know.
and
And
that's
that's
in such a different spot. It's tough.
for sure. And I think that's kind of why I wanted to ask you and just get your perspective on it. And I know, like you mentioned, like there are so many online platforms and like the course that I will shamelessly drop all over the world. I mean, so many people know about it, but you know, Dawn has a really great community at Basecamp as well. And I'll let you get into that maybe near the end of this podcast because I know how excited you are about this and how just much you've put into it. But it's been one of the ways that I've discovered you, Dawn, and it's been so helpful for my business. So thank you for everything that you do. And I appreciate every little bit of work that you put into it. But to the community, I think I agree with you big time. There are a lot of online communities, like you've mentioned, but it gets really overwhelming. And so leaning on who you have in your world can look different for everybody. But I think from my own perspective, just, you know, if you have people in your world, listener, right now who, you know, you're really trying and you believe in yourself so much, just you maybe don't have the funds to join a base camp or to join a retreat or to join a workshop right now. You know, I encourage you to really try and invest in that in the future if you can, because that will really help you with your community and just your confidence and experience in the whole industry with your career. But tell the people in your life that you have right now how much this means to you, how much you love what you do, how much you believe in yourself, and then tell them what you need. You know, I'm a big love language person, so the people in my world know what I need when I'm struggling or what I need when I'm really thriving to help me share that excitement. So just really kind of, I guess, ask yourself the question of what kind of things do I want from these people, that I need from these people, and how can I communicate that with them?
Yeah.
But again, also whenever you have the opportunity to dive into those workshops, and I'm not just saying for Basecamp, but period, when I did that with Chewy and Joshua Tree, first of all, loved her travel. And so I knew that I'd be coming to life in a different part of the world. And I was so excited for what it would do to me. And it really did. Like once you get out of the element that you're used to being so structured and routine and safe in, it really, as an artist, for me anyways, helped me really explore that. With my retreat that I have coming up, this is my first one that I've planned, and it's been so much fun. And as an educator, I know you've done a lot of them, you know, workshops, retreats, and courses and stuff like that in the past. And I think you've spoken a lot about maybe your clients' experiences through that, but as an educator, and maybe for someone who's looking, who's already in the wedding photography industry and looking at diving into more of the educational side of things, taking that leadership role and giving a little bit of that education back, what would be some suggestions into just really providing the best experience for my girls? Because I got 6 girls coming to Vancouver to hang out in an Airbnb, and I'm so excited.
I love that.
So what's, you know, your experiences, if you could just touch on that, and any advice you'd have for me to make it bomb for these girls?
Well, first off, are y'all doing photo shoots?
Yes, so there's going to be 4 styled shoots. It's over 3 days. And so we have like 6 girls staying with us for the weekend, and then 1 day of just day passes for the local people in Vancouver who can come out. So there's a lot happening. We're going to be doing like, I'm going to be taking their portraits, and then we're also having 4 different styled shoots with 4 different couples throughout the entire time. So it's going to be a lot. And I do have, to touch on that as well. I have 3 other educators coming in. So there's going to be presentations as well. So it's not all me, which I'm excited to share the space, but yeah.
That's awesome. Either way, it would have been awesome. But okay, 2 things. One, with the photo shoots, like, cause I obviously you don't have to like give me the full rundown, but as long as one of them is in depth, like an elopement or wedding or whatever, like the vibe is, like as a couple shoot, whatever you're all doing, like make sure it's from like the whole story. Like I just see so many styled shoots where people just go in, the couple's like cute and they're in a cool spot and everyone's just taking photos for like an hour and a half, the same thing over and over. You can't do much with that after. Like you can post that once or twice, you can blog about it, you can do some reels, and that's it. Like you can barely blog about it. You can barely, like that's like, you just don't have enough with that. It's like, I feel like when people go to these styled shoots or these workshops, like even if there are less photo shoots, but one of the shoots was even more in depth where like, let's say it is a wedding and like we're capturing a couple like getting ready, doing a first look or getting ready together and like details, they're writing their vows, they are actually saying vows or love letters, they're actually standing there like pouring their hearts out to each other. We're like, people who are photographing them like don't get to talk. Like that's like something I feel like I see at style shoots all the time is like people are like fake reading vows and they're like, okay, now wipe her fake tear, like yelling, or they kiss and everyone starts screaming. It's like, you wouldn't do that at a wedding. Like, why are you doing this differently? Like treat them like it's their wedding. Like you wouldn't just like walk up to them and be like, oh, can you actually hold your vow book differently? Like don't do that. Like treat it like it's a wedding. Like, I don't know, stuff like that. And like you've actually like have marketable content, like you can blog, like you photo, like, because some of these people, they might have never photographed a wedding. So like this is their opportunity to actually try and like be put to the test of like what it would look like to do that, or have someone walk them through what it looks like to photograph a mini wedding. So I feel like an opportunity like that is like the best way you can go about like a photo shoot, is like capturing the full moment, everything, like the whole story, I guess. And then on top of that, giving homework. Like that's like my second part, is like leaving them with some sort of homework to do after, because people leave workshops and then they're like, okay, now what? And blog, post, go, like, but like do things like, but they don't know, like they're so overwhelmed and they're exhausted and they come home and they like, snap, they edit, they post, and then they're like, cool, I just spent thousands of dollars to attend this, but now I don't know what to do with it. Like I learned so much, but they almost were so overwhelmed from learning that they like don't know what to do after. And so just like leaving them with like an attainable checklist or some sort of like a homework game plan of like, hey, you've learned these things. Now here's like the next 4, 6 months or a year from now, like this is the things that you could be doing with that time. And like just leaving it up to them from then on. Like you don't have to give them like a full thing, just like a couple things, like you've done these photo shoots, so now let's blog them in these many ways and then also post them in these many ways. Like just something to give them some sort of attainable, like final way to like kind of encapsulate the whole trip.
For sure. And thank you. That's super helpful because I'm super interested in the experience that I'm giving these girls, but I also want to be able to focus on all aspects of why I'm doing it. Like I want them to have that portfolio. I want them to have a great experience, but it all kind of has to tie together. And I think one of the big things too is it was so important to me to find real couples, because that's the one. I've been at one styled shoot, well, a few, but there was one in particular, and it was so like, I'm like, I don't know what to do with, like, I don't want to take any photos. I'm not inspired. I don't feel anything. And so that was really important for me, but I think that will help me kind of really structure the one specific that I'm thinking of, into just, really tying it into a full day, giving people everything that they need to kind of tell that story. That's something that you do so well, is storytelling through your imagery and through your work. What would you say is one of the, like, what's your number one tip? You know what? Let's avoid the tip right now. I want to know a little bit more about like your process of how you go into a shoot to really tell that story and capture every part of it.
Oh gosh. I mean, kind of like a couple different things. Like most of my couples, if we have the time to, they'll fill out a questionnaire prior. And so I do a lot of my like research about that person, that this couple I'm photographing, this person I'm photographing based off of their questionnaire. But so much of it is just like observation at the session and like how I can capture them in their natural way and like make them feel really comfortable, really beautiful. And it's just a lot about like observing, communicating, being confident in that, being confident in the fact that they've hired me for a reason and just like leaning into that. But yeah, I just kind of I try not to go into any photo shoot being like, I want to get a shot like this. It's like, no, like what about the client wants this and what can I do for the client to give them the things that they want from the photos? Like maybe there's a word that we're leaning into, like they want the shoot to feel really romantic or really playful. Like that's kind of where I will like kind of lean into that and just kind of I don't know. It's like a collaboration. Like I have ideas, but they have ideas that they don't know that they have, but like they want, they just don't know how to say it. And so like I kind of have to work on that with them and like figure out what it is. And it's fun.
100%. Oh, I love that. I think that's so important. And like for me, my relationship with my clients is huge, and I think it starts at the very beginning and how you prep them and what they like, set your expectations, set your guidelines for them, and just keep everything super open. And I think that as long as you do that, you set the stage. Like you said, they hired you for a reason. They love what you do. They love your work. And so I think just being confident in the experience that you can offer them would be huge. How did you find such confidence in what you do? Like, was there a day or a moment or a certain shoot that you were like, I fucking like, I am so good at this and I've got this? Or were you like I'm gonna kind of fake it till I am it kind of thing? Because that was me.
Yeah, I still think I'm kind of in the fake it to make it. I don't know. I had a photo shoot like literally 2 months ago where I was like very hands on, like directing more than I normally do. And I was like, why did I leave feeling like that was like my favorite photo shoot? And I had to like really break that down. I was like, oh, I like communicated more than normal. I like had ideas versus like kind of more fly on the wall. Like I said things more. And I was like, okay, I think I need to start talking more at photo shoots. And that was like 2 months ago. So like, I don't know. Like,
It's hard too, because I think too, for us like creatives with busy minds, it's like we get so involved in what we want to do and what we want to create, and we forget to like zoom out and take a new perspective on things and be like, you know what, I've come a long way. Do you recognize how successful you've become and everything that you're doing, and not only the success but the impact that you're making on the community? Like, do you ever sit and bask in that for a minute?
no, no.
No.
I understand that I have a high following account, like a high following number on my social media. Like I understand that. I'm very aware of that because I actually don't like it. I think it makes people think that I'm not down to earth or I'm not attainable. Like when you had so many people be like, "Wow, I can't believe she's doing your podcast." Like, why wouldn't I? Like, just like imagine me if I had 100 followers. Like that's what I would rather because like I don't put that number to like where I like like I don't know, I feel like I get put on a pedestal because of that kind of stuff and I hate that. And so like for me, when someone asks me to do a podcast, I'm like, this is awesome. Like it's a great opportunity for like me to meet someone else. Like we can talk about really fun things. I learn so much whenever I do podcasts. Like I learn so much from you guys and like what you are either how you're asking me things or the way that we kind of like banter about things, like stuff like that. So I like love this kind of stuff. But I don't know. I just think I get told on social media from time to time that like base camps make a difference to them or a mentorship I did or something I said made a difference, which is always really sweet and like means the world to me because I do love words of affirmation. But no, I do not like sit and think about it very often because I don't know. I feel like I'm still growing, I'm still learning, I'm still evolving always. And I never want people to think that like it's gone to my head that I have a lot of followers or something gross like that. Like I am constantly like working to the next goal or just trying to always stay on top of it so I can keep supporting my family. So yeah.
Yeah, I know it's being a mom too, and you two boys, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, how old are they?
3.5, 1.5. Yeah.
1.5. Shit, girl. I have a 3 and 4-year-old, and I'm in the trenches right now. I found it interesting that you brought up Instagram right away. Like, that's great. And I think I'm looking beyond your Instagram, and I'm just going off of everything that I've heard about you, the testimonials I've read about you. And I don't know. I know I can tell that you're a person who doesn't like to sit and boast. And I'm going to give you that minute just because, like, you do make an impact. And I just want you to know that. And I just feel that every now and then because when I get an opportunity to zoom out and look back and I'm not near as, I guess, established into my business as you are right now, and I'm really building that, but it's really nice even for me to look back. So girl, look back and like pat yourself on the back. I know in the past you've mentioned on an interview you do have ADHD.
Yeah.
You're open to chatting about that a little bit. I I was diagnosed about a year ago. And I was curious what led you to like, were you diagnosed and like medicated and things like that? Like, what's your story with figuring out like, I need a little bit of help here?
Well, I knew that I was like pretty sure I had it before I was even pregnant with, I think even with Revan, which is my 3.5-year-old. And I was like, okay, I really want to go down this path to like get that figured out. But he is almost 3.5 now, and I did not want to get put on medication while I was pregnant with him. And I didn't want, and I knew that I wanted a baby quickly after him. So I was like, I didn't want to put on meds at all until I was done having babies. And so for me, and like that was like a personal choice due to like past trauma that I've been through. So like anybody else who like takes meds and is pregnant, go for it. Like there's probably nothing wrong with that, I'm sure. Like doctors can tell you. But for me, like I wasn't even gonna dive into that because of like what I had already been through. And so I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So when I was after I had Caden is when I started to like pursue a doctor and like figure out how that all worked. And then yeah, I pursued a doctor. I saw my primary care and saw the shrink or whatever they call those people at the doctor's office. And
Like, are you psych? Are you a like therapist?
I
Like, I don't
never
know. I
know
don't
what
know the
any of that is.
terminology.
Whoever can prescribe it, they basically
I
like
know. Yay, I want
yeah.
you. Yeah.
But basically, yeah, they like had me. I came into it knowing that the way my brain works, I had to write it all down before I went in because I would forget everything. So I wrote down every reason why I thought I had it personally and business wise. Because like there's obviously ways that I struggle with it in my personal life and in my work life. And so I was like, okay, if I split this up and kind of break down why I think I have this, or at least a version of it, then maybe I can make more sense of it when I get there because I know I don't make sense a lot of time. So I get in there. I told my doctor all the reasons why, and I was like, literally, I was like, don't mind me as I read off my notes. And he's like, you're good.
This is so
And then I did the
funny.
same thing with the person who ended up prescribing it to me. And he literally looked at me, he's like, just you doing this, like, you literally have it.
Check. Skip the test. You have it. We're
And
done.
then,
We're done
yeah, and
here.
they really appreciated that I was aware that it was affecting my personal life and my business life, and that they were glad that I knew that there was a difference in the two as well. And I got officially diagnosed in September of 2023. So I haven't even been on the meds for a full year yet. And obviously, we had to do like months of like trial. Like it was like basically 20-day spans of like, try this dosage and then come back in 20 days, try this dosage for 20 days. And like, definitely learned what did and didn't work. And it's wild though, because I really didn't start them until like the end of September. So like basically October. And by December, I saw the biggest jump in my business with like income and numbers, and like insane. What I was doing was achieving what I'd always wanted at this point. And like, and I didn't even do anything differently. I just did it better. Like I wasn't, I was doing it differently, but like not in like a way that was like different for me. Like I wasn't changing my personality. It was like, it was just wild. So yeah, I'm really happy about what it's changed for me personally.
Yeah, it's wild. It's absolutely insane. I mean, you mentioned like I knew I needed, I saw the effects in my personal and my business life. What did that look like for you? Like, what were some
Yeah.
telltale signs where you're like, okay, this is bad? Like, other than, like for me, I was very forgetful and I would literally, and I knew I also had two kids very quickly. And that's the thing too, like the mom brain that everyone talks about. I'm like, is this that? Or am I anxious? Like, what's going on? But there were a couple other things that led me to kind of feel like, okay, I need to figure this shit out. But what was it for you that, like, little things, like, how did it
Yeah, I
impact
mean,
you?
like I feel like a lot of it for me was like communication, like issues like forgetfulness or thinking I communicated something, but it was all in my head, like truly was all in my head. Like, and I even did that this morning. Like I still have it, even though I take medication for it. Like I hadn't taken my medication this morning yet. And I literally had a conversation with my husband, half of it in my head, half of it out loud. And he was like, what you did? He just like, you just started two sentences without finishing them. And I was like, no, I said this. He's like, no, you did not. And like looked at me like just like in shock. And I'm like, yeah, there we go.
You're like, you're not used to this yet, babe?
Yeah, no,
Come
literally.
on.
My mind already goes a mile a minute, but to the point where it would exhaust me. Like I would have to like every day by like noon, I was exhausted. Like every day. Like Like I can like, and people always joke that I'm such a grandma. I go to bed at like 8 or 9 p.m. if I'm not doing a sunset shoot, like 100, and I still do. But like it was to the point where like I was like beat, like to my core, exhausted. I feel like it's because my brain was working so hard because I was so adamant about like getting my job done and being able to spend time with my family. And like like for a long time, I like for years there, I felt like I was like pregnant basically too. So it's like that extra exhaustion and like mom brain. Also, well, like I don't know, it's just one of those things too where like you also kind of think you're taught as a kid if you have ADHD, that means you're like hyper and wild and the class clown. And it's like, no, you can be like calm and still have your brain not function the way it should function. And like, there's just so many factors to that. And so for me, a lot of it was communication, forgetfulness, like just like thinking too far and then not completing a thought. And then the next, and it's just like, yeah, it was bad.
100%. And that's the thing too. It's like it's so important to know like it presents so differently in everybody and it's nothing like it's I don't know. Some people are freaked out with medication and even just the title of like I have this, but for me it just gave me a lot of clarity and like help with determining the tools that I need to build the business. That it's like okay, I get distracted easily. So this is what I'm going to do. I know that you are a big believer in batch work. Is that still something that that's your system, hey? Like, can you walk me through like a Monday to Friday day, like week of Dawn? Like,
Chaos.
do you focus on edits?
Just chaos.
Yeah.
It's absolute chaos. It's whatever I feel like doing in the moment. And then my team or somebody I work with is like, Dawn, I need this thing. I'm like, oh, stop everything I'm doing and I will work on said thing.
So you
I was talking to one of my friends who is absolutely wonderful. She's so business minded. She's so smart. She's so organized. Like she's got a team member for every single thing. Like this girl has got outsourcing on lock. Like she doesn't have children. She has a wonderful husband and she gets to garden and cook and work out and have this insanely incredible business. And so I was talking to her and I was like, oh, I know I need this thing for you. Like I need to get this thing to you. And she's like, oh yeah. I'll get you my part tomorrow. I'm working on that around like 1 p.m. And I was like, what? What? How do you know you're doing that? Like, what? And I was like, if you told me that you needed this this week or in the next month, I'd be doing it right now because my brain all of a sudden got excited about it, or I'm like, I'm going to forget about it. So I'm going to do this right now, even though I'm already in the middle of another task. And she's like, yeah, no, like I can do that tomorrow. And I was like, my brain could not. Like, I have to do it this second. Like, if my husband's like, oh, babe, like you forgot to do this one thing, I would stop whatever I'm doing and go do that, even though I'm like, I could just do it when I get up next, but like, no, like it needs to get done now. But then when I come back to my desk, I won't continue doing the past project. I'll do whatever I want to do next. Still do that.
Absolutely. I tell my husband it's so difficult for me, even in editing. I've gotten a lot better with the editing and multitasking, but it's so hard for me to come out of a headspace and then go back in like the mom mode to Kate Kozar photography mode is like fucking the most difficult thing. Oh, it's so hard. It's interesting to me hearing from you, like you don't really have a system because I have some days where I'm like, I think this is just it. I think it's just going to be like this. I'm in this season of chaos and I'm going to just take it for what it is. It's not going to get better. And you know what? I'm doing great with my business, so it is what it is. How do you, I guess, for people who maybe do have ADHD or have a really hard time focusing and, or even just setting up like systems with children and maybe a family that's distracting, like what are your tools that you bring out to really help yourself focus and get a project done appropriately?
I mean, for one, I take my medication, which helps a lot. If I don't, it's not like I'm literally not even a human that day. I've realized very much that I like need and rely on said medication, which I'm fine with, and I will fully support that for myself. And then I have noise canceling headphones that I have to wear if I'm like getting a task done. Like if it means that I'm at home or in like a coffee shop, like I cannot watch a movie, even if I've seen it 100 times. It needs to be music. It cannot be like an audiobook. I need to be focused. I need music and typically like something like not really upbeat, like kind of more calming. And then I typically also like write out my list. So like I have lists everywhere. I'm sure if you have ADHD, you probably have 1,000 notes and lists and notes.
Oh, fuck, you know I do.
Yeah. And so I recently got one that's like more of like a timeline blocker. That's like a daily one. So I have like my ongoing insane list. That's like everything that ever has to get done. And then I have my weekly, like from that list, what's broken down of like this week, this has to get done. And then whenever I show up to my office in the morning, I'm like, okay, what today has to get done. And like write out like 3 priority tasks that have to get done. And it's almost always, well, trying to be starting with emails because it's my least favorite task. And so I try to start with emails, get that done. At least some of them, like the most important ones. If I just don't have the mental capacity to take on all of them, I'll take on the most important ones. And then whatever else, I typically try to like edit or work on some marketing posts and then work on something for Basecamp or like something else that needs to get done. But yeah, I feel like just like breaking it down, like a big brain dump, a mini weekly brain dump, and then a daily to-do list, I feel like can help you. But also just being okay with it's okay if it's chaotic. Like as long as you're getting your job done, like just be okay with that. And you're doing like you said, you're doing the best that you can and just figure out what works for you. And if you have children, put on your headphones and close the door. Like if someone is properly
I just leave my house. I'm like, bye. Yeah. No, for sure. I love all of that. I think it's all super helpful. Lists are game changers for me. And then like my husband Brett will call me in the middle of my list. I'm like, fuck, like no, I have to go DND, like do not disturb. I can't get a text. I don't respond to text messages and my family hates me for it. And I'm like, listen, I'm not in that space right now. I will get back to you at 8 p.m. right before I go to bed. So that's so funny.
I would just stop everything and call them. Like, hey, do you want to FaceTime? Like,
see, but then my ADHD, I'm like, but I'm plugging into this right now and I'm I'm a writer and I need that like space. And so, yeah, I think too, just, anyone out there that's listening and struggling with balance and structure, it's like literally dive into finding out what works for you and make that a reality. Just make it happen. You don't need to do it a certain way. If you have to remove yourself from the house, get the fuck out of the house and put your headphone, whatever you need to do. I love that. And take your medication because it goes a long way.
I will say work better. It's called body doubling. It's an ADHD term. It's when you like do any sort of task around someone else. My friends joke with me, like when I take their family photos or like photos for them for anything, I joke with them like, okay, so I'm coming over to your house tomorrow and I'm finishing these because I will work 10 times faster if someone's around me or FaceTiming me. And so I have a lot of friends who will just text me, be like, are you working today? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I'm FaceTiming you because they know that I'll work so much faster if I'm talking to somebody. Like it's a weird thing. And so, yeah, I go to my friends' houses like once or twice a week and I just sit on their couch and they'll clean their house. They will cook, they will meal prep, they will do whatever they're doing. And I'm just sitting there and I will get so much done. But if in my office, I'll probably get a third of that done.
And yet TV and movie and radio distracts you, but you just like to have the company.
I feel like if someone else is around, then I can't like start scrolling or online shopping or anything. I have to work. Like I am accountable to whoever I'm around that I have to work. I don't know. It's weird.
That's so interesting. I've never heard that tool ever before, but to anyone listening, try that out. If you're having a hard time staying focused, I think I work from home and I thankfully have full-time daycare for both of my kids. That's been the biggest thing for me. And so I do get that time, but it's been really, really, really difficult to explain to them, mommy has to work and mommy's doing this right now. So just find your tools, find your system and figure out what works for you. I doubled up on what are you taking, by the way, for your...
I take Adderall.
Adderall, okay. It's a medication called Concerta. And
I've heard of Concerta.
I accidentally took 2 one day. I can't even tell you, and I'm not promoting to do this by any means. I probably won't even put this in there, but I was like, I called my doctor. I'm like, first of all, am I going to die? Second of all, this is actually kind of great, but I do have like a lot of side effects. Like I have no appetite from these medications. I
lost a lot of weight. Yeah, like a lot of weight. And in a way that I wanted. Like I was really happy about that because it was like baby weight that I like just was not losing from my back-to-back pregnancies.
I've been really struggling with the working from home and staying diligent with taking care of myself at the same time. I think with having the ADHD, I sit down and I hate even labeling it like that, but I know it's just how my brain is. Once I dive into something, it's really difficult for me to even take a break to go get like water and give myself lunch if I'm like really into something. And that's one of the things that I'm working on. Have you ever experienced that? Like how
with ADHD?
Is that?
Well, since taking the medication, I'm like not hungry. So like I have to force myself to eat in the morning before I take it because then I'm hungry. And then by the end of the day, I'm typically hungry again. But even then my portions are extremely small compared to before medication.
I've noticed that too. That's so wild.
I'm actually like okay with, and I am been like meal prepping like high protein meals and like I typically only eat anything unless it's like high protein. Like obviously I still snack, like we go get ice cream and like do things like that. But like I'm very aware of like what I'm putting in my body now versus like, I don't know. I'm actually really happy with where it's gotten me. And I feel like I've been significantly happier since I've had like for me, like my weight loss is what I wanted, but I didn't realize it was going to come from this. I just knew that it had to happen at some point. Like,
For sure. I think too, just like as long as it's healthy
yeah,
in a healthy way. Like
yeah.
you said, you have a great diet and you follow this. And so that's important. I'm trying to really dive more into that. I did a lot of nutritional programs and stuff like when I was a lot younger with my husband, just to stay healthy. It's always been a big thing for me. But as a creative, I have a really big challenge with like the balance of like feed into myself and my own care just as much as I am to my business. I'm gonna go to my next. We'll kind of get out of this ADHD because I could literally talk about this and I won't stop. And then I'll forget to ask you
That's okay.
everything else. What's one thing, Dawn, that you are so overjoyed about and excited about in your life right now? And it can be outside of business. It can be anything. First thing that like comes to mind.
Gosh. Business wise, I'm so excited about. I have like a base camp meetup coming up soon, so I get to like hang out with base campers in person, and I'm very excited about that. It's happening in July, and I'm like over the moon stoked to like get to hang out with everybody. I think it's gonna be a blast and just kind of create community in a fun space, and it'll be so fun. I'm so stoked. And then besides that, I feel like I'm finally like in my personal life, I finally have found a really great group of girlfriends that I've always wanted. Like, yes, I had my sorority in college and I love them, but like we all moved away from each other. So like it's so hard to like continue. Like I'm still close with them, but it's like we all live hours or if not like across the states from each other, you know? So to have a group of girls that I'm like, when we text every single day, we have our group message, we hang out all the time. Our kids are all the same age. Like we do everything together. And if we don't, we're talking about it together. Like and we're all so different, but we have our like similarities. And it's just incredible to have like a group of girls that I don't know. It's just the coolest thing. It's so awesome. I'm like, nothing can beat that. I'm like, we want to like move kind of far, but I'm like, nope, I can't. Like, we can't do that because like I finally found my people. Like, we're not moving. Like,
Where would you move? Where
like
you guys
2 hours away to like a different town. Like, but I'm like, I'm no, because then we couldn't hang out.
You're like, I'm set. I'm stuck. I have my people.
Like I'm not leaving.
Honestly, I know, like I'm 30 and I actually just shared a post on my Instagram yesterday about this, but like I've never been I've always been like the floater. Like no one's really ever understood me fully. I've never been like fully part of something where I feel like it's me and like friend groups and everything. I've kind of just been like everyone's acquaintance and all these things, which is crazy because I value connection in my life so much, but I've kind of learned like I don't know, the last couple of years I've been doing a lot of self-discovery and how important honoring those relationships in your life and also just giving into your family and those friendships just as much as you do into your business. Once I started doing that, which is a really tough balance and it took me a little while to figure out how to do, but that really changed things for me. So that's exciting. And I feel like I'm just starting to find that group of friends, that core group of friends who get me now and who are open to me in this season of my life. But no, that's the best thing in the world. And I'm excited about that for you.
Awesome. I've lost a lot of friendships in the last couple of years that I had to end myself and like, it was not fun, but like when you have, I feel like as a photographer, we can get taken advantage of really easily with our jobs. Like, oh, will you take our photos for free? Like, and like, it gets to a point where like, when you become friends with somebody, you're like, oh yeah, like it's fine. And then after a while, it kind of gets like, I don't know. I've never wanted my friendships to always be like this, like two-way street. Where like, if I give you this, you have to give me something back. Like that's not what that is. But there is a level of respect, and I lost a lot of those respectful friends when they just kept taking advantage of me. And I think I said this before, but I am very much a people pleaser, and so it's just hard. I don't know. People are just had a lot of friendships that weren't equal anymore in terms of just like respect and. I finally have that, and it's I never have to stress about that shit anymore. It's so nice. It's been a lot of bad years.
Breathe it out and grieve all of those. I mean, the thing too, it's like I'm a big I just recognize life is kind of presented to me in seasons. Every season, I've lost a lot of family members actually in the last couple of years. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to just lose everybody that's not serving me and I'm going to just start fresh. And it took a lot, but it's really where I found a lot of acceptance with myself and just like I'm good with me. And if you want to be in my circle, be in my circle. And now the people who I put energy into when I'm not serving my family and my
Yeah.
business, give it back to me. And that's been so big. So I want to talk to you about your
Yeah.
husband for a minute. Like Dawn and Dusty. So I know that I don't know, so to the listeners, she has not spoken a lot about her husband, but she has shared before that you met him on Tinder. Is that
Yep.
right? Which I mean, I'm a wedding photographer and I talk to a lot of my couples. I'm like, how did you meet? Like, tell me your story. And the online world obviously has
Oh
blown
yeah.
up and online dating is a big thing. When did you meet Dusty and were you afraid of using Tinder? Were you actively on it for a bit? Like, what was the energy?
I wasn't actively on it for a bit. He had been. He was like, having a fun time on there, having a good time with Tinder. I had just ended a pretty serious relationship that I had been trying to end for quite some time, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna be single. I'm gonna be a crazy girl. It's gonna be so fun.
I'm gonna download this app and get
Yeah, I was gonna
wild.
go wild. I was stoked. I was like ready to
Yes.
go wild. I think I was 25 at the time, so I was like, I'm
I
ready
was
to
gonna
have
say,
fun.
how old were
Yeah, I
you?
was I was
Yeah.
prepared for that.
Yes.
I literally had like 3 guys I was like messaging and dates set up, and my first date was with Dusty, and I canceled all my dates after that. And it was like 5 days after I started using Tinder.
Are you
Yeah, I'm dead
serious?
serious. And same with him. Within 2 weeks, he was like, "So we deleted our Tinders, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, we did."
It was one of those kind of like when you
Yeah,
know kind
and
of
that's like
deals. Didn't so
it was so hard because like everyone's like, "Didn't you just end like a really?" I was like, I was engaged, so like it was a pretty serious relationship, and I was like, "Yeah," but like when my ex had proposed to me, I didn't even want to say yes. So, like I knew that I was already out of that before it got serious, and so when I broke up with him, like I had been long mentally out of that game for a long time, but just took a long time to end it. And so when I got together with Dusty, it was like I was mentally ready for like to actually like fall in love with somebody.
yeah. Were you at all? No, I think that's because I was very similar. I am a person who like I dove into my high school relationship with everything I
Yeah.
had and kind of forgot to feed myself throughout that
Yeah.
experience and figure out who I am. I have my attachment style is like way up here. Um, Do you find that he's similar in that kind of like similar to you in that aspect? Like when you guys met,
Oh yeah.
you're like, listen, we know what we
Yeah.
want. We've kind of been through it and we just want to make this a
Yeah.
thing.
He was more than I was. Yeah.
Okay. And so he didn't live where you lived, right? Or was he in a different,
Same town. Yeah. Like we were like 25 minutes apart. Yeah.
you walk me through your first date with him?
We went to a local Mexican restaurant and we had so much fun. It was really great. Like I tease him all the time though because I like love tequila and margaritas, and I was like, "Oh, this is so great. We're going to like a Mexican restaurant." But at this point, I had been on a date in like years because I was with my ex, and so I was like, "Oh, what do you do like on a date? Like, how do you do this?" And so when we got there, we like he only ordered water and like food, and I was like, "Oh my god, I
I need
can't order a
tequila.
drink." I was like, I need a drink, like that's gonna make me look boozy. So I just ordered water. I don't drink water. Like I don't drink water. Like that's not a thing. I drink sparkling water, soda, flavored water, energy drinks, coffee. Like I don't drink water. And so I was like, oh my God, I have to fucking drink water. Like this is so weird. So like I didn't order a drink either. And his water was like there was like a hole in his cup or something because it was spilling all over the table like the whole dinner. Like it was just like condensation all over the table. Like it was so funny. So the whole dinner he's like cleaning his water lines like everywhere. Like and we like still joke about it. Like anytime we go to a restaurant now and he like wipes off like the water condensation, he's like, it's not like our first date. Stop. And I just start laughing. But yeah, the restaurant was fun because like we talked so intensely and I don't even know how long we were there, but I just remember that like the restaurant they started to like clean up around us. Like it was closing. And I was like, oh my God, like we're literally the last people here. We need to pay and leave. Like
Did you ever get
yeah.
that tequila?
I mean, like a couple days later, I think at a different date, but like with him, like, but not that night. Got engaged 2 years later and then got married the next year. And Revan was born 2021. So we've been together for 8 years now. So like we were together for like 4 or 5 years before we had a baby.
With Dusty, when you guys met, I'm just curious. You mentioned he's a stay-at-home dad. You're the breadwinner of the family, which I hate that term, but it's the only way that I can figure out to say like obviously you guys have set up this kind of in society unconventional way of like having a family, and mom is out bringing home every part of her soul that she's worked so hard to provide. What was his approach with that? Like, is he insecure about that? Is he like, go babe, you fucking go?
No, the second one for sure. It was actually his idea. He had a job working, he's also a high school football coach for track and football. So has his own thing as well, but like, it's not like a moneymaker, but it's more of his passion and just a place for him to have his own time. But he was working for the school district and coaching and did not love his job at like the job part of it, like not the coaching part of it, and called me like pretty much every day when Revan was like a couple weeks old, and he was like, oh, like it was like his lunch breaker to be driving between locations, and he was like, oh my god, this drama today and this drama today, like it just, it was always exhausting. And then finally, I think Revan hit 3 months old at this point. It was almost 3 months old, and he was like, I just can't take it. And I was like, fucking quit, like stop, like I don't like doing this. I don't like taking care of a newborn all day while trying to work. Like I'm losing my mind. And we had a babysitter already helping me for a couple hours a day. And it's still like, I was like, I'm losing my mind not being able to work to the fullest capacity that I'm used to before baby. And I'm just not that kind of mama. Like I love my kids. I want to spend time with them, but I love my job as well. So like, I like to separate that time. And like, I personally like I want to do both. And that's okay. Like everyone has their own thing. But for me, I needed to be able to work as well. Like it fuels me in a way that I need. And I was like, quit your job, like quit it. And he was like, no, we're like, run the numbers. I was like, we don't need to run the numbers. We're fine. Quit your job. I was like, I can actually work harder if you get your butt over here. Like I can make us more money if you're here helping me versus me holding myself back all day to take care of this sweet little boy, like, And so he was like, all right. And literally like the next day, I think he put in his 2 weeks and became a stay-at-home dad. Like, and he was the one like, oh, could we do this? Could we do this kind of a thing? And I was like, yeah, just fucking quit. And so I was so happy. And he's like the most supportive husband ever. He's always telling everybody like, oh yeah, my wife makes the bucks. Like my wife can do this. My wife does this. Like, it's really sweet.
You don't always get that from men specifically, but I think just like from a more dominant partner, I think a lot of it is just how they were brought up. Like my husband had a really difficult time, just understanding that, you know what, not even my husband, I had a really difficult time not understanding why my kids weren't my number one thing once I had them. Because I grew up, like, I was born to be a mom, and this is what I want to do. And then when I had my kids, I had also just started like building my business, which I loved also so much. And I was like, what's wrong with me? Why don't I love my kids? And it wasn't about that. It was just about realizing that I can be an amazing, successful business person and creative and whatever I want to be, and a mom. And that's one thing that you bring to the table and like show to everybody with what you do and everything you put into your work. And I love that about you.
People like don't like when moms don't know that they can do both. Like, and I don't know. It just makes me sad that they like feel like there's like a stigma or like, I don't know. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. If you want to work and be a parent, do it. Like, hell yeah. If you don't want to have kids and you just want to work, hell yeah. If you don't want to work and you only want to be a mom, like, or a parent, like, that's also great.
My husband's been so supportive. He sold his truck when I to buy me a camera. And so I owe a lot to him. Nice. And I really had no idea what the fuck I was doing, but I was so stuck in depression and anxiety of like, I couldn't get out of my bed. It was really bad. It was a dark time. And I'm like, I need to have something in my life that I feel like I'm making an impact and serving somebody other than my fucking like corporate boss who I see once a year for. So it was a bit of a...
How far you've come. Like, look at how happy you look now. Like, this is so cool.
I'm so, so happy. And it's been a journey, but I look up to people like you who can share their stories and inspire people like me who's listening in little cities going, okay, she can do it. I can do it. She's a mom. I'm a mom. We got this. Like, have you ever heard of Saskatchewan?
Yeah, I've heard of Saskatchewan.
I say it like it's never been heard of.
I've photographed people in Saskatchewan. I love Saskatchewan.
Have you really?
People who live in Saskatchewan hate Saskatchewan.
Dawn, where did you photograph in Saskatchewan?
I don't remember. It was some really ugly little park by a pond.
Hence why no one comes to Saskatchewan.
They flew me all the way there for that. It was so weird. I was like, why am I here?
And what's funny is like I probably know them.
Yeah, probably do.
No, but no, I love where I'm from. But again, like with having have traveled a lot in the last couple of years and really exploring this creative world outside of what I know in this little city and small province in Canada, it's really, really inspiring. And so I just encourage anyone listening today who wants to just take the leap and kind of move forward with their business, doesn't have that community, doesn't have that support. I just hope that you could have, taken something from this and can impact your business or at least your perspective. That's been one of my biggest missions, Dawn, is just to give people something to listen to that can like motivate them a little bit into like heading into a session, or even heading into another day. Days are hard sometimes as a creative. What would you say, like in 2015, what were you using Instagram for then versus now? How has it changed for running your business and marketing and things like that?
I mean, I feel like in the last like 5 or 6 years, it's become like the marketing like spot. But when I had Instagram, it was literally just like a silly app where people posted photos with filters. Like I started like when I started like my Dawn Photo Instagram, it was when Instagram started. And it was just a silly app at the time. Like people just posted photos and like I was doing client work at that point. Like I was getting booked for shoots and I would like post them and stuff like that. So it was like really like not a big deal. And it wasn't like it was just more of like a place to post where my friends who already followed me could see my work and not like, because like Facebook was just becoming a thing too. Like MySpace was kind of like you were kind of going away from MySpace like into the Facebook world, and that's when Instagram kind of started. And so it was just like a different time. But like at the time, I was really only booking people I already knew and like a friend of a friend. Like it was always like word of mouth referral or like a lot of Facebook stuff, or like I would post to my Facebook account, like my Facebook Dawn Photography account, whatever. And this is when I was still Dawn Photography, not Dawn Photo. And I only became Dawn Photo because my Instagram, that was all that was available to me. So like just the shorter form of it. And so that's just how it stuck. And like I was Dawn Photography and I didn't like my maiden last name and I didn't want to pick another part of it because I was like, I'm gonna get married someday. So like that seems silly. So I just made it Dawn Photography. And then Dawn Photo was all that Instagram had. So that's how it became Dawn Photo. It's just the most ridiculous thing ever.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I don't know. It just kind of like happened that way. And then, yeah, I don't know. I would share on Facebook. People would share it. And then they'd be like, hi, I found your name through our neighbor, this and this. I'm like, oh my God, I love them. I would love to photograph your photos. Like it didn't start taking on for me to like book other stuff until I like built a website and like I started like posting more and like hashtags weren't a thing yet. Like reels, stories, those were not a thing. Like when I started,
Everything has changed.
it was
Yes.
just a post, and you couldn't even do a swipe post. It was like one post. When you got to do, I think there was a time where you could do 3 swipes. I was like, what? Like that's so cool.
Which ones? How
Yeah.
do I do this?
How do I pick? Like,
Yeah, I know. I think, and I just asked because I think Instagram, even for me, has changed so much.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, I do get a lot of my business from Instagram, but a lot of it's just word of mouth now.
Yeah.
But I think for me, in the last couple of months, actually, I've been putting a lot of time into building my Pinterest
Yes.
and working on my SEO and my website and just external programs other than Instagram, like what happens when this crashes.
Yeah.
And so that's been actually, I've noticed so much more engagement with my Instagram and interaction and things like that. And I'm not even like, I used to really kind of look for those likes and get a lot of validation through them. And now I want to look at like, what are people saving?
Yeah.
What are people, commenting on and tagging other people in? That's where I'm really looking at providing more of for my clients. So Instagram is a crazy world. Are you big into Pinterest or are you kind of just
my
focusing
team
on
takes care of my Pinterest, but yes, I love Pinterest. It's a huge part of like my business and Google and blogging and SEO. Like I take on most of my like Instagram and TikTok stuff because it's fun for me. But yeah, I love it. I just love social media. I think it's a blast.
I love how Pinterest, the content, it just lives for so much longer than just like a little post on Instagram that gets a little bit lost. But
Awesome.
I love that.
No, just working. Well, once the boys wake up from nap, I'm with the boys for the rest of the day because I normally spend Fridays with them. But I have an elopement tomorrow. Tomorrow's Friday. So tomorrow I have an elopement and I have to take off like the other half of the day. So the morning I'll be with them tomorrow and tonight afternoon so that my husband can have a break.
Oh my gosh. So when you spend Fridays with your kiddos, like what are your boys like? What do they like to do? What are you spending time doing?
They would probably just want to go to the park and play with monster trucks all day. I take them thrifting to Target and grocery shopping, and then if we have time, we go to the park.
Are you a mom who likes playing at the park and doing the floor play and stuff like that? Like were you raised kind of like that? Are you into that?
I'll do it if they want. I mean, like my older son like loves Mario, like Super Mario characters, all that stuff. So like we like collect the stuffies and like we go to like a lot of like the arcade claw machine things and try to help him get them. And I thrift a lot of his like stuffed animals with him when we go to like Goodwills and stuff like that. And so it's super fun. But like when we're at home, we like fight. Like Bowser fights Mario and Luigi. We throw fireballs and we eat mushrooms. And we power up. Like we do the thing. So it's fun.
That must come from having a brother. I like my oldest son is the first boy on my side of the family in 70 years. So we were like, what the fuck do we do with boys? Like, I don't know. I grew up watching, like, eating, my mom's gonna hate me, but like eating bagged popcorn for supper and like
Yeah.
watching The Bachelor with like Trista and Ryan and all this shit. And I'm like, can you guys do that with me? Because I would love that. But instead, we're gonna play Lego, and it's been a bit of a journey. But you like being a boy mama.
I
It's been
love
pretty
being a
fulfilling.
boy mom. I'm definitely like a tomboy through and through. So like I love to wear like a dress and like be cutie girl and all that and everything. But like I love just definitely being like like a tomboy and playing with the boys like that. Like I love going on bike rides and walks and like going on hikes with them. But they love thrifting. They have a blast because we go through all my favorite sections of the store and then we end in the toy section. We spend like 45 minutes there. And if we donated toys, they can pick each a new toy at a reasonable cost. So normally it's like 50 cents for like a new monster truck. But yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that. It's been really fun at this age to like figure out yours one, I mean, you have 3-year-old, right?
Yeah.
And then one's a little bit
Yeah.
younger, but 4 for me has been so fun.
Yeah.
Like Bowden is my oldest and he just like he teaches me something new every day. He's challenging me. He's like I get to live my childhood through him a little bit and it's so
I
fun.
love
But
that.
um yeah, I could talk to you a lot more about motherhood, and I think I had wanted to, but I know that, we don't have a whole lot of time today, so maybe we'll save it for another
That
one.
sounds
If you could just, I guess, let the audience know, let our listeners know a little bit about your base camp. Just give it a quick little pitch and where they can find you and why they should be part of it and how fucking amazing it is. But if you can just talk about that for a quick minute, that would be awesome.
I mean, you can find me just through my Instagram. I'm always on there talking and sharing and all that. But Basecamp is my online education for photographers and creatives in general, mostly photographers, but a lot of videographers join as well. And it's just insane amount of education of all kinds of like marketing, social media, finances, like all the things that you could ever need to run a successful business. But like a lot of times too, it's like other things that you don't even think that you need to help you run your business. To be like creative, but to also be like business financially smart. And then on top of that, you get the Facebook group, which is actually insane. Like I have been a part of a lot of Facebook groups and I have people that help me with this Facebook group. And all of us are like, how is this the nicest, most supportive Facebook group? And like, I'm not just saying that. Like people are way incredible in there. There's nothing mean in there, which is so great. And then I also just recently switched over. I had Instagram close friends set up for base campers, but we've shifted over to a private account now where I can actually be way more present, which is so nice. So now Basecamp also has an Instagram private account, and I'm pretty much on there 24/7. I'm barely even in Dawn Photo anymore, and I'm always in there chatting with base campers, storying with them, doing Q&As. Oh, there's so much happening in that account. It's so much fun. So yeah.
Crazy. You're an incredible, incredible creator and mentor for me and for a lot of other people. What you do speaks to the masses. Like you guys, she's thought of everything in this space camp. You have courses, you've got templates, you've got products, you've got literal gear for photographers. Like I've said, like you have us covered to the core. So thank you so much, Dawn. What's your Instagram handle? How can they find you? Just Dawn Photo, like you
Dawn
said.
underscore photo.
Thanks to Instagram. Yeah, thanks to Instagram, it's just Dawn Photo.
Literally. Yep.
Um, I, I love that. Well, I hope you guys learned something, maybe something new about Dawn that you haven't heard her talk about before.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun. You are really fun to talk to. This is so easy. I could also talk to you all day about everything. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.